Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We're going to go ahead and get started right now. It's 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Latif Abro, Director of Global Marketing at Omega Performance, the world leader in credit and conversation skills training for banks of all shapes and sizes. It's no secret that the retail banking landscape is going through an evolutionary phase. In today's highly competitive, high-tech marketplace, customers have more banking options than ever before. Contemporary research finds that customer loyalty is decreasing along with fewer average products per household and less likelihood of word-of-mouth referrals. We pulled together two of the industry's brightest experts to offer up some practical solutions to these modern challenges. Laura Lewers is Omega Performance's Head of Strategic Accounts. Laura partners with our clients to develop modern, blended training programs that empower bankers with the skills needed to thrive in today's competitive marketplace. And Nancy McGinnis is our resident retail banking expert. Nancy leads training workshops and helps bank leadership develop comprehensive performance improvement programs. With a key focus on coaching and change management, Nancy brings over 17 years of retail banking experience to today's conversation. I'd like to let everyone know that this is an interactive session, so please submit your questions using this platform's chat function, which you'll find in the right-hand side of the webinar window. We'll answer your questions at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, Laura Lewers.
Thank you so much, Latif. What a wonderful introduction. And thank you all for making and taking the time with us today. We're real eager and excited to dig in further. You'll see here that it's our aim to start at, if you will, the 30,000-foot view level and bring all this down to the 3,000-foot view level, looking at industry and market challenges, as well as how all that impacts your organization. So often, both in the workshops that we deliver, as well as in time with our customers via performance planning and strategy sessions and/or ongoing implementation, we tend to hear, listen, you're out there talking with folks like us every single day. What are you seeing? So it's in this light, here's where together we're headed today. I want to take a look at a couple of key challenges here, and then with Nancy's help transition you, so I'll start at the 30,000-foot level, with Nancy's help transition you to the 15,000-foot level, and then bring it down to the 3,000-foot level. So in essence, what we want to really look at is, what are some of these key challenges? We know that there are a lot. We're going to focus in on a few key challenges that you're facing today. Look at what the implications of these challenges are for your organizations, bringing that down to the 15,000-foot view, and ultimately, and most importantly, answering the so what. What is it that you can do differently to create an even deeper connection with your customers at that 3,000-foot view, if you will, the feet on the street view? I'll start at the 30,000-foot view with some compelling quotes from the biggies, McKinsey and Bain. I think these are poignant because it starts to set the context around what we're here to talk about today with you. And that is that if you look at the retail banking space, you look at profit pools, you look at what's going to be happening over the next up to 5 years, they predict modest growth, which means you've got to figure out ways to pinpoint pockets of opportunity within your existing markets. And I thought it was compelling what Bain had to say. Customers, we all know, are using several challenges to both research and investigate and ultimately find new solutions for them, buy new products. But specifically, 37% of these customers are still getting recommendations from banks' employees. That's an important and notable place to pause and take a breath, because that's really what we're here today to do, is to dive deeper in what that could look like, how you can get even deeper when it comes to that point of contact. So I'm going to outline a couple of key market challenges as we've seen them, as we're hearing them from our customers. I'm sure you're going to note more. We just wanted to highlight a few today to set the context of this. These are high level. We think they're poignant. And again, it's what we're seeing and hearing from our own customers. Most of you can already understand that these pains associated with these challenges aren't necessarily going to go away. But stay with me here for a second. Imagine that I've walked into your institution and I'm standing in a room important to your operation. So there I am in the middle of that maze. And I notice that I'm standing above a loose floorboard. And instead of moving away from it, I'm staying on it. Purposely, for a few minutes today, I want to bounce up and down on that loose floorboard. Because it is important to feel these challenges head on, to experience them, and to, in essence, live in the pain for a little bit. And thinking back to that McKinsey quote, you've got to continue to pursue new pockets of new opportunity. That's why this whole concept of deeper connection and deeper customer interaction is so important. So some key challenges as we see them. The sales culture clash. This is not new to any of you. You've got to be looking at how ever-present organizational change, as well as ongoing mergers and acquisitions, are wreaking havoc on the concept of one approach within your organization and, most importantly, to your customers. How and why having a singular voice and the reminder that you must have one, but you also must have the right sales and service culture will better enable you to pinpoint new opportunities within your existing markets. And clearly, again, the 37% going to bank employees still interacting directly with your people, according to Bain & Company. You've got to create a culture that fosters a true world-class customer experience. Let's talk deeper about efficiency ratio. Nancy's going to dive deeper into this in a little bit, but you know it better than any of us. You got to get more with less. You're thinking about this, you're talking about it all of the time, but still knowing that people are coming to your employees directly to get recommendations while they're now wearing more hats, having more to do than ever, but having less time to do it. All while you're being forced to place more emphasis on reducing costs and growing revenue. Your people still must be top performers. They've got to be working on all cylinders. And ultimately, if you stop and think about it, what about your new hires? They're in the mix too. How can you more quickly get them up to this place? And notably, as we see it, market segments, or we'll call them today sub-segments, the reality that today and moving forward, one size really doesn't hit and address or fit all. And these sub-segments themselves can represent additional opportunity for you, because if you think about it, there's real finesse there and there's real opportunity there, but it's all in how you handle it. So all these challenges exist. They're not going away. And in some ways, it's a lot you can't necessarily control. But you still have to ponder all of this, and you've got to ready yourselves for the implications of these challenges. It's a good question to ask, and I'm going to hand the baton over to Nancy here in just a few minutes, because now it's time for us to dig down into that 15,000-foot level view. But before I go there, and believe me, I don't necessarily seek great joy out of inflicting any further pain that these challenges can cause, because you're out there, you're feeling them. I just wanted to stop and call out powerful research that's been done around what it really does take to move people to change. Some of you may know or have heard of a psychologist named Daniel Kahneman. Kahneman is renowned. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom back in 2013. He's a professor emeritus at Princeton University. And actually this year, The Economist named him as the seventh most influential economist in the world. He's a powerful guy. And what he did was studied something called loss aversion. In economics and decision theory, loss aversion refers to people's tendency to strongly prefer avoiding losses over acquiring gains. Strongly prefer avoiding losses over acquiring gains. Most studies suggest that these losses are twice as powerful psychologically to the gains. So it's in this vein that as I pass the ball now to Nancy, she's going to help you think through all of this further. Because in order to think about the impact or the implications that the challenges we're posing here will bring, you got to live in this pain a little bit longer. You've got to live in your status quo and be asking yourselves, where does my organization fit in all of this? So Nancy, let me hand it to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Laura. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the 15,000-foot level. And this is where I imagine the seatbelt sign is coming on. Because of what we do and who we are at Omega, we see the three challenges that you see on the screen right here. As you think about them, you may have strategies or solutions in place for some, but likely not all of them. As I go along here today, be asking yourself, where is my organization with respect to these issues? Laura said it earlier, but this is now your chance to stand on that shaky, squeaky floorboard for just a little bit longer. Why? Because as Kahneman referenced, you have to feel the pain for a bit, because that's really what's going to create the impetus for change in your organization. All right, so let's take a closer look at these implications, and we're going to look at them by asking some questions. So as I ask these questions, I want you to think about how you would answer them for your organization. The first one, the sales culture clash. Given all the mergers, acquisitions that are happening, and the never-ending organizational change. Do you know what's happening for sure during your organization's customer interactions? A few years back, a research company asked senior managers to estimate the percentage of customers who would say their bank is providing excellent customer experiences. This is interesting. They said it was over 90%. But when the research company went directly to the customers, it was actually below 10%. So I ask you, could this be happening in your organization? Second question to ponder, do you have a clearly defined vision and strategy for the newly combined organization? And if so, are you communicating it upwards, downwards, sideways? Give you an example. I worked with, I'll refer to them as Bank A, about 18 months ago. They were about a $6 billion bank in the Northeast. During one of our early planning sessions with the leadership team, I asked each of them how comfortable they felt with their vision and strategy, etc. And they were all in agreement that, yes, they were aligned, they were in lockstep. So I decided, you know, I want each one of these folks to draw a picture. So I gave them a piece of flip chart paper and asked them to draw a picture using pictures or words to reflect their vision and strategy. Well, what do you think I got? I got 7 different pictures, 7 different visions, 7 different strategies. Sure, there was some overlap, but there were more differences than commonalities. So they quickly realized that if they couldn't agree in that room on the vision and strategy, then how could they drive that message down through the organization and begin to achieve consistency? Next question. Do you have the necessary rigor around sales skill development, coaching, and reinforcement? Remember, communication and consistency is what's going to lead you to greater efficiency and effectiveness. So let's go on to our next challenge and the implications, efficiency ratio. You know better than anybody that doing less with more is now the new normal. So answer these questions. Is your staff able to make split decisions when prioritizing their time? Are your best people working with your best customer or customers, or those that have the potential for revenue growth? Is your organization thinking of efficiency with respect to the 360-degree view, also known as the enterprise-wide approach? This is about optimizing every opportunity and meeting more of a customer's needs. Thirdly, do you plan to develop your bottom 20% performers and bring them into your top 20% performers? Two things to remember here. You cannot have mediocre performance, and you must capture the entire customer relationship. That takes us to our third challenge and its implications: market segments. Are you and your staff treating customers differently? That is, can your staff differentiate the needs, tangible and intangible, of the different subsegments you're serving? Are you tailoring your recommendations accordingly? And how many of you actually have a guide to help your staff create effective questions for the different subsegments? The thing to remember here is that one size does not fit all. What size are you delivering? If you're answering no to these questions, you're not alone. We're seeing it, we're hearing it every day in the field. But I ask you, what will your organization look like 6 months from now if you do nothing or you keep doing more of the same? What will it look like in 12 months? You'll be falling through that squeaky floorboard, and that's no good for anybody. Change is happening. It's happening fast. But I want to share with you what we're seeing, the trends we're seeing, that our clients, when they've answered those questions and they've answered them no, that I've asked you to ponder here. So let's look at these trends and implications. What we're seeing is we're seeing staff working in a state of confusion because there's no clear vision. Organizations are seeing false starts because there's no clear strategy. There's inconsistency and unpredictability in sales and service levels because no one has told them what the priorities are. The environment is full of anxiety and fear because there's not been any reinforcement. There's been no training or little training. And then there's little measurement and reward, which leads to frustration and resentment. Can we at Omega help? Absolutely. And we have many, many thoughts on how to do it. But let me share with you our point of view. We believe strongly that it requires analyzing and aligning your vision, strategy, and execution approach. Those have to be in alignment. It requires personal commitment to practices and routines, such as your sales model, your coaching model. It requires thoughtful skill development deployment. And finally, strategic and consistent coaching and reinforcement. Here's the key takeaway. This is not a one-time event. It's a journey. It is a process that must be reinforced at all levels. All right, so let's descend right on down to the 3,000-foot level. How can you connect with your retail banking customers on a deeper level, specifically as it relates to deepening customer connections? So, if you're part of the senior leadership team, begin with the end in mind. Adjust your vision, your strategy, and execution plans to make sure you're factoring in the market challenges we've discussed today. Be sure that any strategic initiatives you implement are really tackling these challenges. Let me share another example with you. Not too terribly long ago, I was working with a $3 billion bank. At the time, they were not meeting their targets. Employees were unhappy, and to no surprise, customer complaints were at an all-time high. After a couple of open and honest discussions with middle management, we soon learned that the senior leadership team was operating in their own silo. Why? They were being pressured by the board to pursue new delivery channels immediately. But the rest of the staff didn't know this. So when engagement between the leadership team basically ceased altogether with the rest of the organization, the employees began fearing the worst, and that was the bank was in trouble. But after a few meetings and department-wide conference calls, the staff finally got it, and they threw their support behind the effort. They just wanted to know what was going on, what was taking up the senior team's time. And so from then on, the organization to this day is still working hard to remain transparent in what they're doing, why they're doing it, and more specifically, how it impacts the customer experience. So senior leaders, just as we have here today, you need to take your 30,000-foot view down to the 3,000-foot level. And don't forget, it's your people who are your greatest competitive advantage in making a deeper customer connection. Branch managers, if you're wondering what you can do today, start by setting clear sales and service expectations for your staff and be prepared to say what is negotiable. Another client of mine, a credit union, was working on an effort to bridge communications between the leadership team and the front line. So with encouragement from middle management, the senior management team or a member of the team decided that they would record a 2-minute YouTube video, which was only accessible to the department managers and branch managers. And these videos included two things: messaging that was tailored to the departments and the branches that reinforced the organization's mission, vision, and strategy, and what the departments and the front line's role was in regards to these. These videos also included communication of short-term wins by the branches. So branch managers would use the video as a discussion starter for their weekly kickoff meetings. Not only did the organization start hitting their goals by focusing on the right activities, but employee morale soared because they knew exactly what was expected of them, and so did their managers, and they were being recognized for their efforts. The second thing you can do, model the behaviors you expect, i.e., asking questions that are unique to different subsegments. If you want your staff to do something, you need to model it. But be careful never to assume we know what our clients need. You have to ask. Third, coach often to the behaviors you expect. You may say, I don't have time, I have production goals, or my employees they don't see any value in it, they don't take it seriously. The kicker here, folks, is most performance gaps link back to unclear expectations and lack of reinforcement. Reinforcing the right activities are going to lead to the right results. You can't afford not to coach. And finally, for you frontline staff, it really goes without saying that your number one goal is to have loyal customers who view your organization as a true partner in their financial life. And being part of the front line, your role is absolutely critical in driving this loyalty. We know that the secret to long-term customer satisfaction and loyalty for you or your organization is full customer engagement by the whole organization. You have to keep the customers you have now, and those that you don't, or if you don't have their loyalty yet, you have to earn it and earn it now. Loyal customers are your best advocates. So here's what you can start doing. 1, have a 360-degree view of the customer. In terms of its application here to the front line, it simply means looking at the past, present, and future of the customer. Here's what that looks like. Look at the customer's past. What's their account history? How have they been interacting with your organization? Is it working? Look at your customer's present. What is their immediate need, and how can you truly add value to their financial lives today? And finally, always be thinking about their future. What are their emerging needs as well as unrecognized needs? When you have this 360-degree view, you're making connections with your customers on a much deeper level, and you'll have that opportunity to address these future needs and earn their business. I'm sure you've heard the stats that a customer with one product is likely to remain with your organization approximately 18 months, while if they purchase another product or service, that loyalty expands up to 4 years. This is why you have to cross-sell all lines of businesses, but always when it's right time for the customer. Continuing on with what you can do today, think about your customers in subsegments. What approach will you take? What questions will you ask as a result? Be careful not to pigeonhole your customers. An example, don't assume a senior doesn't like technology. My father, he's 88 years old. He wants no part of it. I have an 88-year-old aunt. Bring it on. Next thing you can start doing today is during every interaction, take a litmus test on this and ask yourselves, have I contributed to the financial success of this customer, given who and where they are in their lives today? And finally, going forward, just remind yourselves that future loyalty resides not at the product level, but at the relationship level, and that one size does not fit all. And at this point, I will turn it over for questions.
What a great presentation. While we were going through the presentation, some of our audience have submitted thought-provoking questions. Let's take a few minutes to review them. One question I have here is, I work in a bank where customers are not really the main focus, but product pushing is really encouraged. Can you give me some ideas of how to deal with that?
So Lateef, it's Laura. I'll take this one. You're not alone. If anything, this is the one pervasive thing we're challenged with, because the pressure's on, goals have to be met, and how you're going to get there, you break it down to product. I think in walking away from today, even just thinking about market segments and thinking specifically around, and doing some research on the whole sub-segment conversation, and thinking about, as Nancy just said, what kinds of questions can you be asking in that sub-segment is going to force you out of a product push, even if it's you at an individual level. I would also say at the organizational level, if you can start pushing information around the concept of, market challenges and how do you solve, number one. Number two, because I think that's going to get the organization out of the product push. And then number two, specifically, what can you individually do? Nancy had some great ideas there by level you are within your organization of key takeaways that you can start to do organically and then let them bubble up in your organization.
Thanks, Laura. Next question we have here is, it's a short and succinct question, but it might require a deeper answer. What coaching techniques do you recommend?
This is Nancy. I'll take that one. First and foremost, I say coach early and coach often. But let me tell you how we at Omega define coaching. It's really a collaboration between you and your employees. And that collaboration ultimately should lead to accountability, development, results. Now, when I say coach early, I simply mean that coaching starts before you ever see results, before you ever observe behaviors. It starts with you setting clear expectations, showing them what great looks like, being a role model for them, and then being on the floor and catching them doing things right. You're going to get far more leverage with their strengths than you are their weaknesses. And so when you see them exhibiting the behaviors that you want to see repeated, you want to reinforce it. You want to tell them what they did effectively, specifically, either a quote or a behavior, and then explain why it was so impactful. And then if you see something that might be counterproductive to that client experience, simply phrase it in the future. Next time, I might recommend you add this, you ask this question, because then they're going to walk away really feeling like they've got something tangible to use in the very next interaction. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it's a good one too, because time and time again, I'm hearing our clients say, what we really love is the concept of the "you did well this, next time that." That's a really good mantra for coaches too.
Yep.
Great.
To remember.
Thank you. Next question we have. I am a branch manager. Are any of Omega Performance's courses appropriate for me, or are they only suitable for frontline staff?
So let me take that one, because it would be easy for us to say, hey, you're a branch manager, here's what you go do. But we're hoping that what we've imparted here is this really is sort of a holistic and, as we said earlier, journey. Now, that doesn't mean it needs to be complicated or too overly detailed or comprehensive. What it means is there really does need to be analysis starting at that 30,000-foot view, as we did here today, bringing it down to, if you will, the 15,000-foot view, which is really, as I see it, where the branch manager sits, and then bringing it to the literal feet on the street, the 3,000-foot view. So do we have solutions to help you as a branch manager be more effective in leading by example, as Nancy said, coaching to practices, skills, routines? Absolutely. But we'd really want to look with you at what's happening from an organizational standpoint at that 30,000-foot view, bringing back that down to the 15,000-foot view, and how that impacts you as a branch manager. What can you do differently to lead to leading your people and inspiring them in interacting with and engaging your customers in a truly world-class way? So more we can offer there, but be thinking about it not just as, I'm going to go get this skill and therefore it'll change everything. They're all interrelated, all these concepts.
Thank you, Laura. I think we're running up against time here, so we have room for one more question, and here it is. How do I know if my best people are working with my best customers?
That's a really, really good question, and I'll take that. First and foremost, you have to define what your best employee looks like and what your best customer looks like. Unfortunately, not all organizations have a good handle on what their best customer looks like. It's not always that customer with the most money. Those are the ones who can be very demanding, wanting the highest deposit rates, lowest loan rates, take up a lot of your time. So we can't answer that for you, what your best customer looks like. However, what we can tell you is what employees are doing that will drive those deeper connections and lead to profitability, which I'm guessing would be your best customers. We look at the best employee as those who are engaging with the customer, earning their trust, taking time to learn what their unique needs are, and then customizing an approach to them, making a recommendation that is really relevant and resonates uniquely to that client. They're not afraid to ask for the business. They're confident in their recommendation. But in the event that the customer has questions or is objecting, they're skilled, they know how to respond to it, and then finally they are closing out those interactions, making sure that that client is delighted today, but more importantly, have they laid the seeds for future relationships. So I hope that helps. Can't answer what the best customer looks like for you, but hopefully that helps you define what some of your best employees should look like.
Thank you. And thank you, Nancy and Laura, for fielding these questions from our audience. I think we could go on and on, particularly with you, experts on the line, able to provide such great responses here off the cuff. I'm afraid our time is up, though, so we'll have to stop with the questions. But I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's live webinar and let you know that we can continue the conversation. On the screen, you'll see a few links where you can, where I'll talk to in just a moment. Make sure you register for our next webinar in the Banking Conversations webinar series. Coming up on December 15, our CEO, Jenny Daly, will speak with one of our clients to gain a banker's perspective on retail banking. Further, if you haven't already done so, please visit our blog to read a great follow-up blog post as our CEO, Jenny Daly, interviews the head of learning and development at one of our clients, Yadkin Bank. And finally, we're here to help. Please feel free to email us at solutions@omega-performance.com with any follow-on questions for our experts, or to learn how Omega Performance can help you build a modern training program for your bank. I want to wrap up by letting everyone know that this webinar has been recorded and it'll be available to view on our website shortly. Thanks again, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.